right. Yep, it's recording now. Thank you for the reminder. Uh, yeah, so I'm here in Denver with my family. My wife's name is Sarah, and our daughter's name is Brianna. She was born back in June. So this is my personal sharing with you that I had COVID and Sarah had COVID. Sarah had to be hospitalized for 1 week when she was month old pregnancy. So that was a scary time for us. So Sarah went to this hospital and she had to stay there for almost 1 week. But thank God the recovery was working well, and then she was able to return home and continue the recovery process. And when Brianna was born in June, thank God that she was healthy, nothing to be worried about, and yeah, Brianna was kind of small. I mean, we are small in terms of compared to Americans, but Brianna was smaller than expected. But she's growing now, and thank God she is about 9 months old this month of the 13th. And English is my third language. My first language is Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia. My second language is my ethnic language, which is Batak. And then English is my third language. So forgive me if I'm not making myself clear in explaining things to you. And don't worry about interrupting me with questions or asking for clarification during the presentation. So feel free to ask and interrupt. All right, here we go. Yep. So we're talking about the history of Christianity in Indonesia. This will be a short introduction, and I'm expecting to give a really short introduction, which means that it's not going to be a comprehensive understanding of the history of Christianity, but I'm trying to make it representative to what constitutes as the history of Christianity in Indonesia. So I don't know if anyone of you has ever been in Indonesia. This is Indonesian map. I don't know. Can you see when I use the pointer? No. Let's see. Okay. Can you see it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So this is Indonesia. This is the Sumatra Island, Kalimantan, Java. The capital is Jakarta, which is in Java Island, and then Sulawesi. Kalimantan is the name for Borneo Island, and then this is Papua. Next to it is Papua New Guinea. And then in the south side, it is bordered to Australia. And then north side is Malaysia, Brunei Darussalam, and then Singapore and the Philippines. And I come from this island, this Sumatra Island. If you see Medan here, this is where my wife comes from. And to the south, 3 hours driving, my hometown is Pematang Siantar. So it's only 3 hours to reach my love back then. Yeah, in terms of uh, in terms of uh, the islands itself, Indonesia is an archipelago country. In fact, it is the biggest archipelago country in the world. It has 17,500 islands with five major islands that I've said. It's located between two oceans, the Pacific and Indian continents, Asia and Australia. It has a lot of volcanoes there. The official language is Bahasa Indonesia, which is quite similar to Malay, the language that is spoken in Malaysia. it has 583 dialects. It says here dialects, but it's not actually like the deviation of the formal Indonesia. It's totally different languages, actually, 583. And the most widely spoken is Javanese, because most of the populations, about 50% or more, are Javanese, comes from the Java Island. The capital is Jakarta, the currency is rupiah. There's 3 time zones, the west side, middle, and east. And then the government is republic, and then semi-secular. What I mean by semi-secular is it does not try, the government does not try, or the state doesn't try to separate religions from the state, because in the history, religions contributed to the process of independence of Indonesia. So, so Indonesia recognizes 6 official religions, in addition to, of course, traditional or ethnic-based religions. The biggest population is Islam, Muslims, and Indonesia is the biggest population of Muslims in the world. And then it has 258 million in 2016, fourth most populous country in the world after the US, right? It has 1,340 ethnic groups spread all over the islands. 40% are Javanese, 15% Sundanese, 3% Madurese, and 26 other other ethnic groups, including Malay, Batak, Minangkabau, Bugis, Chinese, Papuans. I myself am Batak. In terms of religions, Islam constitutes 86% of the population, but we are not an Islamic country because Indonesia recognizes the equal right of every religion. Interestingly, Protestantism is 7%, which is separated from Catholics. So Catholic is the Roman Catholics, and Protestantism includes everything other than Catholics. That includes denominations outside Christianity, like Jehovah's Witness, right? And then Catholic is 3%, Hinduism 2%, Buddhism, Confucianism, and indigenous religions are only 2%. Yep, I would like to show you a video to see. Okay, where is the? Hold on a second.
Hesron, have you done a show video on Zoom before?
I don't think so.
Usually there's a separate function, so you may have this.
Okay.
The way to do it, it's not too hard, but
I can unshare.
What's that?
I should unshare.
I think you should unshare it, and you have to start from scratch. So go ahead and unshare your screen for a second.
Okay.
And I'll walk you through it real quick. So if you unshare and then copy that URL and open it in a whatever browser you're using.
It says pause. No. I'm looking. Huh. Okay, good.
So yeah, open it in your browser and then just hit pause on it right away. And then once you do that, you're going to hit share screen again, and it's going to ask you for which window, and you're going to select that one. And then you're also, there's a little box you need to tick that says share sound. You need to make sure that's also ticked, and then it should work when you hit share screen. It should.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Let's see. All right. Can you see the, okay. This is just to give a...
For thousands of years, people have cherished the many wonders of these enchanted islands, inspiring histories of the land below the wind. Astounding relics from prehistoric times are testament to the wondrous age-old cultures. Here, fascinating indigenous folkways live through the test of time, emphasizing the resilience of local creativity and vigor. Magnificent divine temples adorn the landscape, as if forming an exhibition of pervasive spirituality. Religion has always been the cornerstone of life since ancient times. Indigenous wisdoms are traditionally practiced in pursuance of living in harmony with nature, filling the hearts of both hosts and visitors. Funeral rites is a festivity, as much as it is a celebration of life, an occasion to gather family members from all over the world. Rich architectural heritage, shaped by diverse cultural, historical, and geographical influences. Recognized as one of Indonesia's true national treasures. Today's legacy of art and craft continues to enrich the culture, playing a significant role in the daily and ceremonial life of the people. Adapting wonderful traditional art form to modern times, resulting in popular tourist attraction. Keeping remarkable folk artistic expression alive. As they are embodiment of the locals' way of life. Astounding cultural and historical diversity, where various cultures have crossed paths for many centuries. Impressive variety of numerous ethnic groups. An interwoven history of Indonesia's beautiful diversity. Cultural history unfolds in the landscape. Wonderful Indonesia.
Yep. Hope that is giving you some information about how diverse Indonesia is in terms of culture. And we are actually proud about the diversity. And the video keeps playing.
Southeast Asia is one.
All right. So in terms of diversity of culture, throughout the islands, you can find different kinds of cultural celebrations, cultural events, and and somehow religions and let's say imported religions, which is coming from outside, religion that are not the ethnic based religion, somehow work together with the society, and they find a way to incorporate these cultural things into their religious practices. So there is a lot of there's some tension about that, considering some of them are still doing, animism, some practices that are contradictory to some religions, but some others are quite fitting well to the way inculturation, that's the term, inculturation works together. Talking about the history of Christianity, there is a debate about that around 7th century, there were already Christians in Indonesia, but there is no evidence. But there is some mention in some historical writing that mentioned this name, Fansur, which is Barus, in Sumatra Island, where I come from, in the same province where I come from. But in today's situation, there is no evidence that can be found. So there's no proof that really clarifies this mention of Fansur or Barus. And then it goes far to the 16th and 17th century. The context of Indonesia at the time, religiously, Hinduism and Buddhism started to decline. They used to have kingdoms, and there were a lot of Hindu-based kingdoms, Buddhist-based kingdoms, but they declined, and Islam became more influential that time, and the majority of the population was already starting to embrace Islam. And then people from Europe, especially the people from Portuguese, they brought these 3G, yeah, gold, glory, gospel. Gold meaning these merchants come to find something that is valuable in terms of, especially looking for spices, and then glory, they're looking for adventures that can increase their pride as a nation. And then of course the third one is gospel. They want to spread the gospel to people outside the Europe continent. And then there is this merchant, Alfonso de Albuquerque. They found a way to Moluccan Island for spices, and then they started the spreading the gospel as well there, but they occupied the economy. They wanted the local people to sell the spices only to them. That's a monopoly economy that they were doing. And then some missionaries also started to come, including Franciscus Xaverius, who was considered as the pioneer of Catholicism in Indonesia during that century. And when and they started to spread Christianity on the eastern side of Indonesia, in the nearby areas. But when they started to go to the western parts, these Islamic kingdoms or empires started to be to be against the Christianization of the Portuguese. And then in the 16th century, the Dutch people from the Netherlands, they sent expedition to Banten in Java Island, and they founded this company called VOC, Dutch East India, whose main purpose is the same as the Portuguese. They wanted to look for spices and other natural resources that can be exploited. And then along with this company, these Dutch Reformed missionaries came along and they took over Catholic mission. And then and that's why there were a lot of Reformed Christians in Indonesia, along with Lutherans, but I think they are still the majority in Indonesia, less than Catholic people. And then they expanded the mission, but they could only do that if they got the permission from the colonial government of the Netherlands. as long as this mission, this Christian mission, did not prevent their colonial and economic projects, then they could do that. There are some examples in the country that missionaries were sent to some regions in order to make people docile, that they became more obedient while they were being Christianized, so that they would not started rebellion against the colonial government. And then the government, they funded mission works, they paid the salary of pastors and missionaries, churches built mission bodies, schools and hospital. So they were not only spreading the word, but they also did some social works to support the Christian mission. And after the independence in 1945, the independence of the country, churches became more independent. And they started to organize churches by themselves, and they started, and along with the sense of nationalism, they started to realize how important it was to to propagate or to spread the gospel with their own resources, with their own fund, and with their own understanding. And then especially in the beginning of 19th century, other Christian missionaries from other denominations came and started their mission works. So this is still about the reformed missions that we are talking about. What about the mission in the Lutheran missions? So the Lutheran missions was mainly based in Batakland. And where is the Batakland? I can show you here. I don't know if you can you see the mouse? No? Okay. So this is Sumatra Island in the west side of Indonesia. In the middle, if you can see, there is Prapat number 10. Prapat number 10. Down a little, you can see Tarutung there, and that's where the Batak people live. Tarutung and beyond, surrounding Tarutung, that's the Batak people used to live. Yes. Thank you. Yep. All right. So mission in Batak land started in 1820. Richard Burton, Nathaniel Ward, and Dan Evans. They were British Baptist Church. They arrived in Sumatra, and then when they arrived in Tarutung, they were welcomed very friendly by the kings, by the tribal chiefs. But when they started to evangelize, they were rejected right away because the tribal chiefs said that they couldn't embrace Christianity because they wouldn't want to ignore or to leave their culture. And then in 1834, Samuel Munson, it's Munson, Munson, and Henry Lehman, they were from Boston. They arrived in Lobupining, around 15 minutes driving from Tarutung, south. When they arrived there was already a fear from the Batak people of foreigners, of Westerners, because they heard stories about colonialization, about slave trades and others, and they were already afraid that they would become the next victims. So what happened next was there was a rumor that Batak people actually killed these two people, these two missionaries, and then they were eaten. But there was the rumor. There is no proof about that. But some people, even including in Batak communities, some people believe that they were actually eaten by these Lobupining people. So the mission failed that time. And then there comes Van Asselt from Holland. He started the mission, and that was the time when two Batak people, the first two Batak people baptized, whose name were, you can see the change was already Christianized, right? I can't find any documentation about their previous names, but later on their name was changed into Jacobus Tampubolon. Jacobus in English is James. And then the second one is Simon Siregar. He said Simon, not Simon. But we know that Simon was one of the disciples of Jesus. That happened in 1856. In 1861, there was a missionaries gathering or meeting, which included missionaries from Netherlands and from Germany. So they talk about how to do mission in Batak people, but because they were not really successful, they were only able to Christianize some people in some villages, but the mission works did not improve very well until the coming of Ludwig Ingwer Nommensen from Germany. So he was sent by this mission body called RMG. Then he arrived. He had a beautiful life story before he came to Indonesia, to Sumatra Island, before he decided to become a missionary. And he was the successful one to evangelize Batak people, especially the Toba Batak or the Batak Toba people. So Batak tribe or Batak ethnic group consists of 5 subgroups. One of them is Batak Toba, which is the largest subgroup of the Batak people. And he was successful to evangelize most of the Batak people, and the majority of Batak people, Batak Toba people, including me, are now Lutherans. So you can see in these pictures that these are Batak people. This is the tradition, this is the dance. People usually use this motion of hand as a way of respect. You can see that they are wearing like stoles. That is also a show of respect. We did not wear any modern clothes before. We only wore this, as you can see on the left side of this left bottoms of the screen so no modern clothes before. We only wore the ulos, we call it ulos, and we use it in our traditional life, in our cultural gatherings, and as a way to welcome people. We usually give them one and put them on their shoulder as a way to show respect and to welcome them as part of the Batak family. So if you come to Indonesia, I'll definitely do this for you, but just let me know when, when we are back in Indonesia. Yeah. This is Nommensen, the missionary who came to Batak land from Germany. He was considered as the apostle of the Batak people. He came to Bataclan, and then he lived there until his death, and uh, his body, his corpse, was also buried in Bataclan. That was actually his prayer, because he said, God, I want to send your gospel to these people so that they may know you, and I will do that faithfully until my death comes, and I want to be buried in this land as well. So that was his promise. There is one case study that I would like to talk about. This church is the church from my denomination, Indonesian Christian Protestant Church, and it is located in Sumatra Island, in the place where Nomensen started his mission. And this is actually a pretty new church. This is not the original church that was built by Nomensen, but because the number of people were increasing that time, so people started to build a new church. You can see the ornament, you can see the how to say, the architecture is quite similar to German style, but you can see that there is a tower there on which the symbolic traditional house of Batak people is put. And Nomensen, and this church is actually located close to Hutadame, the village of peace. So when Nomensen started to evangelize people, and they converted to Christianity, they were baptized. And then when they were baptized, they started to practice Christianity, and the number grew. But then when the number was growing, the new converts started to have some challenges from the society who attacked them, and they became outcast class in the society, and they were very, very afraid of how the society had treated them, because they had abandoned some of the cultures. And knowing that, Nomensen started to welcome these people in the area of his mission center. But then when he realized that the number was already a lot, so he started to build this village called Hutadame, the village of peace. And the number of people who came to this village was increasing, and the mission started to expand. The whole Tarutung, the city, uh, 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 most of the people were already Christians, and Nomensen started to go to different places as well, and then they became Christians, and the majority of Batak people nowadays are Christians. Yep. Yeah. So that's the end of the presentation. I hope you liked it.
Thank you, Hesron. That was really, really good. And I know there may be questions on anything you mentioned, or maybe about your own life, or your experience, or things you showed us. So I think it would be great to just open this up. Just remember to unmute if you have a question. And I know Hesron's happy to have a dialogue about anything. So yeah, if anyone has a question, please chime in.
Hesron, thank you for sharing. That was very interesting. My children both would like to go visit Indonesia now.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah. So being in a place with so many different religions together, possibly more than we have here, and where people live, I think, closer together than here in some instances anyway. Are communities separated where there's like maybe a Muslim neighborhood and a Christian neighborhood and so on, or is everybody really quite mixed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, in some places, especially in rural areas, the community is more monolithic. Uh, but in especially in cities, people are usually mixed in terms of religion and ethnicities, and people just live together side by side. Um, it is interesting because Indonesia used to be known as a Muslim country, which is, we are not Muslim country, we are not Islamic country, but people because there are a lot of Muslims in Indonesia, so people easily recognize Indonesia as an Islamic country, which is not. But so it used to be so tolerant. It used to be so, people are so welcoming. During uh, I Eid Mubarak, or the celebration of Muslim festivals, uh, they use, some of them like would send their homemade cakes to their Christian neighbors. And then during Christmas and New Year, the Christians people would do the same. They would send their homemade cakes there. They visit each other, and I have an aunt who converted to Islam, and then when we were having a Christmas celebration, they usually come, and they come. They would my aunt used to be a Sunday school teacher, and so she knows how to sing gospel songs, right? So even when we are singing Christian songs in the family celebration of Christmas, she would sing, and my uncle, who was born a Muslim, would look at her, but there won't be any problem. uh, so but of course there are a more fundamentalist segments of the society in terms of religion who would not accept that, and I think they are growing in number internationally. The spread of Islamic fundamentalism is really growing all over the world, including in Indonesia, and the situation started to change, and some discrimination is experienced by Christian people, especially in the predominantly Muslim society. Some churches are not able to build their church buildings, but in some more open areas, they are able to interact with people. I don't want to make a romantic view of Indonesia, because I know there are a lot of problems as well in my country, right? There are challenges in terms of religious freedom and justice and peace. And what I can say is, I think Indonesia is trying to do our best to overcome the challenges so that people can interact more free and embrace each other in terms of religion. But for ethnicity wise, I think we are doing well. One ethnic group would embrace other ethnic groups, and we can live together side by side peacefully. Hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Hesron, you seem to draw a difference between Muslims in the country and Islam. Is there a different feeling somehow?
Not really. By Islam, I'm usually referring it to the religion, and by Muslim, I mean the people who embrace Islam.
All right. And how much family do you have there?
Uh, it depends on what we understand as family, actually. It's interesting because people would understand the concept of family differently, right? For me, family is the big family, the relatives. That's I would call family because everyone is interrelated. Like, for example, my family name is Sihombing. I would call those who has the same name as me as family. So
Okay.
so when I find somebody here in Denver whose family name is Sihombing, I can easily draw some connection with them. And I am Sihombing number 17, meaning I am the 17th generation of Sihombing. So we have numbers. So if I find somebody whose Sihombing's generation is number 16, if he is a male, then I would call him father.
Oh, okay.
If he is a female, I would call him mother.
Okay.
Right? Or not mother, but like aunt, but yeah, from the side of my father, the sister of my father. So
Hesron, can I chime in and ask a question? When I've lived in Kenya, some of the more communitarian cultures, one of the ways to measure that is whether you have to send out invitations for weddings or whether you just know the whole village shows up. Do you send out invitations for weddings, or do you just know everyone in the family in the village is invited?
Let me tell you my story, right? So I and Sarah got married. So I left Chicago in 2019, right? In June, and we got married in July 2019. So I invited my friends. My parents invited their friends and the whole people in the village. My father invited people from the side, from his side, the family from his side, and from his family name side who are living in that city.
Mm-hmm.
My mother did the same, right? And my mother-in-laws, they did the same. So do you know how many people showed up? And we had to feed each one of them. There were 1,200 people.
Wow.
How do you cook?
Everybody brings.
No, we had to feed them. That's their responsibility. So you invited people from your village. You invited people from your family name, your relatives, your colleagues from work, right? So even my friends, my colleagues, fellow pastors from my denomination, there were around 30 of them with their wives or husbands and their kids, of course. So so we had to feed each one of them, which is so costly.
Yes.
That's great. That's a great story. Any other questions?
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are they?
They are in Pekanbaru. So my province, as I've showed you, so one province down to the south is where they live. The same island.
All right. Are there any others before we conclude?
Paul, I have a question. Yeah, I'm not on mute.
You're good. Yep.
Yeah, so let's just go. How or Hesron, in your view, why is Islam so successful in Indonesia? Was it the first monotheistic focused religion to find its way to the islands, or is there Is there some other reason that that Islam resonated? Was it forced on the people? What is the history of that a little bit, if you know?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's an interesting question, actually. So the coming of Islam was rather peaceful. So their missionaries, they wouldn't call them missionaries as we would. So their preachers came to Indonesia as merchants. So they were selling goods to the society, uh, and they embraced the people, and they introduced Islam in a way that is accepting to the culture. So the intermingling of the culture and Islam was quite the influential force when the Islam came in.
Hesron, could you turn up your volume a little, please?
Oh, sorry, wasn't clear enough.
It's just not loud enough.
Okay, sorry about that. So so when the Islamic preachers came, they came as peaceful people, and they talk to people, and they embrace the culture. So when they preach Islam, somehow they were able to make it more friendly to the culture.
Okay.
So the mix between Islam and the culture was really, really strong that time, that people got easily interested in Islam.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was peaceful. And in fact, when Christianity came along with the colonizers, the colonialization, then the Islamic people or the Muslims started to think, oh, what is wrong with Christianity? That this is a religion of love, but why they were killing people, right? That's a story. But when Islam came in, there was no story about killing and murder. There were only stories about how people accepted Islam because Islam could accept who themselves as they were. Right? And that's also one of the challenges when the mission started in Batak land, because when the Christian missionaries started to talk to the people and preach the gospel, the Batak people started to think about Christianity, but then they decided not to accept that because it was impossible for them to practice Christianity, because that means they had to leave their own culture. Whereas in Islam, it was a different story.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Hezron, that's probably true because am I right that Christianity was part and parcel with colonization efforts for the most part, whereas Islam probably came in a more organic way? You know, there was no nation trying to colonize Indonesia for Islam at that point, right?
No.
Right. You know, that's kind of a mixed message when Jesus loves you and we would like all your resources. It's not very effective.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Chris. Appreciate it.
Well, and thank you everyone for being here tonight, and especially thank you to Hesron for this fantastic presentation. We're going to post this on the website too, so that other folks can see it. I'm sure it'll continue to have a good impact, but this is just a starting point, not an ending one. Hesron's with us. He has been for a few months, and he'll keep on teaching us, and we're learning so much from you. So thank you so much for this fantastic presentation and conversation. And are there anything else before we end?
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks to you as well.
Thank you all. Go in peace and serve the Lord.
Thank you.
All right. See y'all later. Good night.
Good night.